Family orders nurse to pull the plug, but she refuses when she realizes this. Elena Rodriguez, her face etched with the lines of hardship and resilience, stepped into the imposing grandeur of Blackwood Manor. The cool air within the mansion, a stark contrast to the humid Miami summer, carried the heavy scent of lilies and old money. Her worn leather bag, a testament to years of dedicated service as a nurse, felt strangely out of place amidst the polished marble and antique furniture. Elena, a woman who knew the sting of poverty and the ache of loss, felt like an intruder in this world of privilege and whispered secrets. Life had been a relentless teacher, stripping away Elena's youthful optimism and replacing it with a pragmatic acceptance of life's harsh realities. Widowed at 30, she had shouldered the responsibility of raising 2 children, their laughter a fragile counterpoint to the ever-present anxiety of making ends meet. Years of night shifts and grueling hours had taken their toll, leaving her weary but unbroken. Her eyes, though tired, held a spark of unwavering determination, a reflection of her indomitable spirit. Blackwood Manor, with its sprawling grounds and manicured lawns, was a world apart from the cramped apartment Elena called home. The sheer opulence of the place was suffocating, the air thick with the unspoken weight of generations of wealth. She felt the invisible barriers that separated her from the inhabitants of this rarefied world, the unspoken judgments that labeled her an outsider. Her patient, Edward Blackwood, lay ensconced in a room that resembled a royal chamber more than a sick room. A labyrinth of medical equipment hummed around his 4-poster bed, a stark contrast to the lifeless form that lay within. Mr. Blackwood, a man who had amassed a fortune in the ruthless world of finance, was now a prisoner in his own failing body, trapped in the twilight zone between life and death. His once sharp features were slack, his skin pale and translucent, his silver hair a stark reminder of time's relentless march. Elena, despite the gulf that separated their worlds, felt a flicker of empathy for this man. She saw beyond the wealth and the power, recognizing the vulnerability that lay beneath. As she meticulously reviewed his medical records, a sense of unease settled upon her. The prognosis was bleak, the doctor's pronouncements echoing the grim finality of a death knell. The family, a motley crew of distant relatives and opportunistic hangers-on, hovered like vultures, their eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger for the impending inheritance. Elena, a keen observer of human nature, recognized the thinly veiled impatience, the eager anticipation of the patriarch's demise. The family gathering resembled a scene from a macabre play. Dressed in their finest attire, they assembled in the opulent library, their hushed whispers echoing off the shelves lined with leather-bound volumes. Elena, a silent observer in this theater of wealth and pretense, stood by the window, her gaze fixed on the manicured gardens outside. The conversation, punctuated by the clinking of crystal glasses, revolved around the inevitable, the withdrawal of life support. Legal documents were produced, whispered calculations of inheritance shares filled the air, and the date for the final act was set with chilling efficiency. Elena, accustomed to the clinical detachment of hospital wards, found herself deeply disturbed by the callous pragmatism that permeated the room. There were no tears, no genuine expressions of grief, only the cold calculation of financial gain. The family members, their faces etched with a mixture of avarice and impatience, seemed oblivious to the tragedy unfolding before them. As the meeting concluded and the family dispersed, Elena lingered in the library, a sense of foreboding weighing heavily upon her. She returned to Mr. Blackwood's room, the silence broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the machines that kept him alive. An inexplicable urge drew her closer to the bedside, her hand hovering over his frail form. Driven by an impulse she couldn't explain, Elena leaned closer, her ear almost touching Mr. Blackwood's lips. In the hushed stillness of the room, she heard it, a faint whisper, a barely audible exhalation that carried the weight of a desperate plea. Elena froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Was it her imagination, a trick of the mind playing on her anxieties? Or had Mr. Blackwood, against all medical expectations, attempted to communicate? She held her breath, straining to hear another sound. another sign of life from the man who was supposedly lost in the abyss of unconsciousness. The whisper came again, a fragile thread of sound that seemed to weave its way into her very being. It was a plea for help, a desperate cry for recognition from a man trapped in the prison of his own body. Elena's medical training warred with the impossible reality before her. Could it be that Mr. Blackwood was not entirely gone, that a spark of awareness remained, flickering amidst the darkness? The weight of this discovery pressed down on her, the responsibility immense. Should she inform the family, risk their disbelief, their accusations of delusion? Or should she keep this secret to herself, protect this fragile glimmer of hope from the callous indifference of those who saw Mr. Blackwood only as a source of wealth? Elena, a woman who had faced life's trials with unwavering courage, found herself at a crossroads. The fate of a man, suspended between life and death, rested in her hands. The decision she made would have far-reaching consequences, not only for Mr. Blackwood but for herself as well. The days that followed were a blur of clandestine observations and covert research. Elena, driven by an unwavering determination to uncover the truth, transformed into a detective, meticulously documenting every subtle twitch, every fleeting expression that hinted at Mr. Blackwood's hidden consciousness. She spent hours by his bedside, talking to him, reading to him, hoping to elicit a response, a sign that he could hear her, understand her. Her efforts were rewarded with subtle cues, barely perceptible to the untrained eye. A slight tightening of his fingers around hers, a flicker of his eyelids beneath the closed lids, an almost imperceptible change in his breathing rhythm. These were the whispers of a man fighting to reclaim his voice, to break free from the silence that entombed him. Elena delved into Mr. Blackwood's medical records with a renewed intensity, searching for any clue, any indication that his condition might have been misdiagnosed. She consulted medical journals, scouring the internet for information on rare neurological conditions, her quest leading her down a rabbit hole of medical complexities. She stumbled upon a condition known as locked-in syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that rendered its victims fully conscious but completely paralyzed, unable to communicate except through subtle eye movements. A chilling realization dawned on her. Could Mr. Blackwood be trapped in this living nightmare? His pleas for help dismissed as mere reflexes, his desperate attempts to communicate ignored? Elena sought the opinion of specialists, presenting her observations, her growing suspicions. She faced skepticism, dismissal, even ridicule. But she persisted, driven by an inner conviction that she was right, that Mr. Blackwood was not a lost cause, that he was a man trapped in a silent prison, crying out for help. Finally, she found a doctor, a young neurologist named Dr. Lewis, who listened with an open mind. Intrigued by Elena's detailed accounts and driven by his own intellectual curiosity, he agreed to conduct further tests on Mr. Blackwood. The results were startling. The electroencephalogram, EEG, showed unexpected brain activity, a flicker of consciousness amidst the darkness. Dr. Lewis, though cautious, was convinced that further investigation was warranted. He proposed a more advanced test, a functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, to assess Mr. Blackwood's cognitive functions. The fMRI results were conclusive. Mr. Blackwood was indeed conscious, his brain responding to external stimuli, his thoughts and emotions trapped within his unresponsive body. The revelation sent shockwaves through the medical team, forcing them to confront their initial misdiagnosis, their failure to recognize the signs of life that had been there all along. Elena, vindicated by the scientific evidence, felt a surge of triumph. However, her victory was short-lived. The family, informed of the new findings, reacted with a mixture of disbelief and fury. They accused Elena of manipulating the results, of fabricating the story to gain favor with Mr. Blackwood, to secure a portion of his vast fortune. Elena, undeterred by their accusations, stood her ground. She presented her meticulous documentation, her detailed observations, the irrefutable scientific evidence. Dr. Lewis, emboldened by the truth, supported her claims, his voice adding weight to her arguments. The family, faced with the undeniable reality of Mr. Blackwood's consciousness, shifted their tactics. They argued that his condition was irreversible, that he would remain trapped in his paralyzed body, a burden to himself and to those around him. They insisted on proceeding with the termination of life support, claiming it to be an act of mercy. Elena, her heart aching for the man who had become her silent confidant, refused to give up. She argued for alternative therapies, for communication devices, for any means that would allow Mr. Blackwood to express his wishes, to reclaim his voice, to participate in his own fate. The conflict escalated, dividing the medical team and pitting Elena against the formidable Blackwood family. The once peaceful manor became a battleground, the stakes higher than ever. Elena, fueled by a sense of righteous anger and a deep-seated empathy for Mr. Blackwood's plight, made a decision that would change the course of her life. She would defy the family, challenge the medical establishment, and fight for the man trapped within his own body. This was not just a professional obligation. It was a moral imperative, a battle against injustice and greed. Her first step was to confide in Dr. Lewis, the young neurologist who had become an unexpected ally. Dr. Lewis, unlike his older, more cynical colleagues, listened to Elena's observations with an open mind, his intellectual curiosity piqued by the challenge of this unusual case. He agreed to conduct further tests, to explore every avenue that might shed light on Mr. Blackwood's condition. The results of the tests were nothing short of revolutionary. The electroencephalogram, EEG, showed unexpected brain activity, confirming Elena's suspicions that Mr. Blackwood was not in a persistent vegetative state. Dr. Lewis, though cautious, was intrigued. He proposed a more advanced test, a functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, to assess Mr. Blackwood's cognitive functions. The fMRI results were conclusive. Mr. Blackwood was indeed conscious, his brain responding to external stimuli, his thoughts and emotions trapped within his unresponsive body. The revelation sent shockwaves through the medical team, forcing them to reevaluate their initial diagnosis and confront the possibility that they had been wrong. Elena, vindicated by the scientific evidence, felt a surge of triumph. However, her victory was short-lived. The family, informed of the new findings, reacted with a mixture of disbelief and anger. They accused Elena of manipulating the results, of fabricating the story to gain favor with Mr. Blackwood, to secure a portion of his vast wealth. Elena, undeterred by their accusations, stood her ground. She presented her meticulous documentation, her detailed observations, and the irrefutable scientific evidence. Dr. Lewis, emboldened by the truth, supported her claims, his voice adding weight to her arguments. The family, faced with the undeniable reality of Mr. Blackwood's consciousness, shifted their tactics. They argued that his condition was irreversible, that he would remain trapped in his paralyzed body, a burden to himself and to those around him. They insisted on proceeding with the termination of life support, claiming it to be an act of mercy. Elena, her heart aching for the man who had become her silent confidant, refused to give up. She argued for alternative therapies, for communication devices, for any means that would allow Mr. Blackwood to express his wishes, to reclaim his voice, to participate in his own fate. The conflict escalated, dividing the medical team and pitting Elena against the formidable Blackwood family. The once peaceful manor became a battleground, the stakes higher than ever. Elena found herself facing not only the family's wrath, but also the skepticism of some of her colleagues, who were reluctant to admit their misdiagnosis and challenge the established medical opinion. Elena, however, refused to be intimidated. She continued to advocate for Mr. Blackwood, her voice growing stronger with each passing day. She organized meetings with specialists, presented her findings at medical conferences, and even contacted the media, determined to bring Mr. Blackwood's case to the public's attention. Her actions had far-reaching consequences. The Blackwood family, their reputation tarnished by the scandal, found themselves under intense scrutiny. The medical community was forced to reevaluate its approach to locked-in syndrome, and the public became aware of this rare and often misunderstood condition. Elena, once a quiet and unassuming nurse, had become a champion for the voiceless, a beacon of hope for those trapped in the silent prison of their own bodies. Her courage and determination had not only saved Mr. Blackwood's life, but had also sparked a movement that would change the lives of countless others. As the battle for Mr. Blackwood's fate raged on, Elena found an unexpected ally in Sarah, a young maid who had been working at the manor for several years. Sarah, a quiet observer of the family's dynamics, had long harbored suspicions about their motives. She had witnessed their callous indifference towards Mr. Blackwood, their veiled eagerness for his demise, and their thinly veiled contempt for the man who had provided them with a comfortable life. Sarah, drawn to Elena's unwavering dedication and her genuine concern for Mr. Blackwood, confided in her. She revealed snippets of conversations she had overheard, hinting at a darker plot, a conspiracy to hasten Mr. Blackwood's death and claim their inheritance. Elena, already suspicious of the family's motives, listened intently to Sarah's revelations. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The family's eagerness to terminate life support, their resistance to further treatment, their accusations against Elena, it all pointed to a sinister plan to inherit Mr. Blackwood's fortune and move on with their lives. Elena and Sarah, united by their shared concern for Mr. Blackwood and their determination to expose the truth, formed an unlikely alliance. They began to gather evidence, discreetly documenting any suspicious activity, any conversations that hinted at foul play. They worked late into the night, poring over medical records, analyzing financial documents, and piecing together the fragments of information they had gathered. Their investigation led them to a shocking discovery. One of Mr. Blackwood's nephews, a man named Charles, had been secretly tampering with his medication, gradually increasing the dosage of sedatives to keep him in a deeper state of unconsciousness. Charles, a gambler with mounting debts, saw his uncle's fortune as his only salvation, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get his hands on it. Elena and Sarah, armed with this damning evidence, knew they had to act swiftly. They contacted the authorities, reporting their suspicions and presenting the evidence they had gathered. The police, intrigued by the case and the potential for a high-profile scandal, launched a discreet investigation. The revelation of Charles's actions sent shockwaves through the Blackwood family, shattering their facade of respectability and exposing their greed. The family, once united in their pursuit of inheritance, turned against each other, accusations and recriminations flying like daggers. The once harmonious family gatherings descended into chaos, with siblings turning against siblings, cousins against cousins, each one trying to protect their own interests. The police investigation intensified, with detectives interviewing family members, medical staff, and even the household staff. The manor, once a sanctuary of wealth and privilege, was now under siege, its secrets laid bare for all to see. The scandal became a media sensation, with reporters camped outside the gates, eager for any scrap of information about the unfolding drama. The Blackwood name, once synonymous with success and respectability, was now tarnished by greed and betrayal. Throughout the tumultuous events that unfolded at Blackwood Manor, Elena found solace and support in her budding friendship with Dr. Lewis. Their shared passion for medicine, their unwavering commitment to patient care, and their mutual respect for human life formed a strong bond between them. Dr. Lewis, initially drawn to Elena's dedication and her keen observations, grew to admire her courage and her unwavering determination. He supported her through the challenges, defended her against the family's accusations, and stood by her side as they fought for Mr. Blackwood's right to life. He admired her unwavering commitment to her patient, her refusal to give up even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds. Elena, in turn, found comfort in Dr. Lewis's calm demeanor and his unwavering support. She valued his medical expertise, his willingness to challenge the status quo, and his genuine concern for Mr. Blackwood's well-being. She appreciated his ability to remain objective and focused, even when the situation became emotionally charged. Their shared struggle to save Mr. Blackwood brought them closer, their professional relationship evolving into a deep and meaningful friendship. They spent long hours discussing the case, brainstorming strategies, and supporting each other through the emotional turmoil. They found themselves sharing meals together, grabbing coffee during breaks, and even meeting outside of work to discuss the case and unwind from the stress. In the quiet moments, when the weight of responsibility threatened to overwhelm them, they found solace in each other's company. They shared stories of their lives, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. Elena, guarded and reserved due to her past heartaches, found herself opening up to Dr. Lewis, sharing her vulnerabilities and her deepest fears. She told him about the pain of losing her husband, the struggles of raising her children alone, and the financial anxieties that had plagued her for years. Dr. Lewis, in turn, confided in Elena, sharing his own struggles and insecurities. He told her about the pressures of being a young doctor in a competitive field, the long hours and the emotional toll of dealing with life and death situations. He admired her resilience, her ability to overcome adversity, and her unwavering faith in humanity. Their bond, forged in the crucible of adversity, became a source of strength for both of them. They found comfort in each other's presence, their friendship a beacon of light in the midst of the storm. They relied on each other for support, encouragement, and understanding, their friendship deepening with each passing day. As their friendship blossomed, they began to see each other in a new light. The long hours spent together, the shared struggles, and the mutual admiration had sparked a romantic interest between them. They found themselves drawn to each other, their conversations taking on a new intimacy, their glances lingering a little longer. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the hospital, Dr. Lewis invited Elena for a drink at a nearby bar. They talked for hours, sharing their thoughts and laughing, the weight of the Blackwood case momentarily forgotten. As the night wore on, their conversation turned more personal, their eyes meeting across the table with a newfound intensity. When it was time to leave, Dr. Lewis walked Elena to her car. Under the soft glow of the streetlights, he reached out and took her hand. "Elena," he said, his voice husky with emotion. "I know this might not be the right time or place, but I need you to know that I—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. Elena, her heart pounding in her chest, waited with bated breath. "I care about you, Elena," he finally said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I admire your strength, your compassion, your unwavering dedication. You're an extraordinary woman." Elena, overwhelmed by his words, felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had been so focused on Mr. Blackwood's case, on fighting for justice, that she had almost forgotten what it was like to be seen, to be appreciated, to be desired. "Thank you, David," she whispered, using his first name for the first time. "That means a lot to me." He leaned in and gently kissed her forehead. "I should let you go," he said, his voice reluctant, "but I hope we can do this again soon." Elena nodded, her heart filled with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "I'd like that very much," she replied, a shy smile gracing her lips. As she drove home that night, Elena felt a renewed sense of hope. The darkness that had enveloped her life for so long seemed to be lifting, replaced by a glimmer of light. She had found a friend, a confidant, and perhaps even something more, in the midst of the chaos and uncertainty of the Blackwood case. The tension at Blackwood Manor reached its peak as the police investigation progressed. The family, their carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of scrutiny, grew increasingly desperate. Charles, facing arrest and the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence, became erratic and unpredictable, his desperation fueling his recklessness. In a last-ditch attempt to salvage the situation and protect his inheritance, Charles hatched a plan to silence Mr. Blackwood permanently. He infiltrated the heavily guarded hospital room, his mind consumed by a single, chilling objective: to end the life that had become a threat to his ambitions. Elena, sensing the impending danger, rushed to Mr. Blackwood's bedside, her intuition screaming at her that something was wrong. She arrived just as Charles was about to administer a lethal injection, his face contorted with a mixture of desperation and malice. "Stop!" Elena shouted, her voice filled with authority. Charles whirled around, his eyes widening in surprise. He lunged at Elena, attempting to silence her, but she fought back with a ferocity born of desperation. The struggle was brief but intense, the two grappling for control of the syringe. The commotion alerted the hospital staff and the police officers stationed outside the room. They rushed in, apprehending Charles and securing Mr. Blackwood's safety. The attempted murder, witnessed by several medical personnel, sealed Charles's fate and exposed the depths of his depravity. The climactic event sent shockwaves through the Blackwood family, shattering any remaining pretense of innocence. The family, once a symbol of wealth and influence, was now tainted by scandal and disgrace. Their name, once revered in the community, was now associated with greed, betrayal, and attempted murder. Elena, hailed as a hero for her courage and her unwavering dedication to Mr. Blackwood, became a symbol of hope and resilience. Her actions, driven by compassion and a deep sense of justice, had saved a life and exposed the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of wealth and privilege. The media frenzy surrounding the case intensified, with Elena's story capturing the public's imagination. She was interviewed by countless news outlets, her story shared across the country. She became a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those who had been wronged. The Blackwood family, their reputation in tatters, retreated from the public eye, their once proud name now synonymous with scandal and disgrace. They were left to deal with the consequences of their actions, their lives forever changed by their greed and their willingness to sacrifice everything for wealth. With Charles apprehended and the family's sinister plot exposed, the focus shifted to Mr. Blackwood's future. The medical team, now fully aware of his consciousness, worked tirelessly to improve his quality of life. They implemented advanced communication devices, allowing him to express his needs and desires, to interact with the world around him, and to reclaim his voice. Elena, instrumental in bringing about this transformation, continued to play a vital role in Mr. Blackwood's care. She became his advocate, his confidant, his link to the outside world. She spent countless hours by his side, reading to him, talking to him, helping him navigate his new reality. She encouraged him to express his thoughts and feelings, to reconnect with his passions, and to rediscover the joy of living. Mr. Blackwood, though trapped within his unresponsive body, flourished under Elena's care. He rediscovered his love for literature, his passion for music, his zest for life. He communicated through a specialized computer, his thoughts and emotions flowing freely, his voice finally heard after years of silence. He shared his memories, his regrets, his hopes for the future. The Blackwood family, their reputation tarnished and their inheritance prospects diminished, gradually faded from the picture. Their visits became less frequent, their interactions with Mr. Blackwood strained and awkward. They were mere shadows of their former selves, haunted by their greed and their failed attempt to exploit their own kin. Elena, in contrast, became an integral part of Mr. Blackwood's life. He valued her companionship, her unwavering support, her genuine concern for his well-being. He expressed his gratitude through heartfelt messages typed on his communication device, his words filled with warmth and appreciation. He saw her not as a nurse, but as a friend, a confidant, a savior. The conflict that had once consumed Blackwood Manor gradually subsided, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. Mr. Blackwood, though physically confined, found liberation in his newfound ability to communicate, to connect with the world, to express his thoughts and emotions. He found joy in the simple things: the warmth of the sun on his face, the sound of music, the company of those who cared for him. Elena, her heart filled with a sense of fulfillment, witnessed the transformation with a mixture of joy and awe. She had not only saved a life, but had also helped restore a man's dignity, his voice, his humanity. She had fought for justice and emerged victorious, her compassion and determination triumphing over greed and deceit. The legal proceedings against Charles and the other family members involved in the conspiracy continued, but Elena no longer focused on the negativity. She had found a new purpose in caring for Mr. Blackwood and advocating for others with locked-in syndrome. She used her newfound platform to raise awareness about the condition, to educate the public, and to fight for the rights of those who were often overlooked and forgotten. The events at Blackwood Manor had a profound impact on Elena's life. She emerged from the ordeal stronger, more confident, and more determined than ever to make a difference in the world. The experience had tested her courage, her resilience, and her faith in humanity, but it had also revealed her inner strength and her unwavering commitment to justice. Her experience with Mr. Blackwood ignited a passion for advocating for patients with locked-in syndrome. She became an active member of support groups, sharing her knowledge and her experience, offering hope and encouragement to families and patients struggling with this rare and debilitating condition. She organized fundraisers, lobbied for research funding, and spoke at conferences, her voice becoming a beacon of hope for those who had been silenced by their condition. Elena's newfound purpose led her to pursue further education in neurology and rehabilitation. She enrolled in a specialized program, eager to deepen her understanding of the brain and its intricate workings. She wanted to learn more about locked-in syndrome, to explore new therapies and communication technologies, and to contribute to the advancement of knowledge in this field. Her dedication and her passion for her work caught the attention of Dr. Lewis, who had become a respected colleague and a dear friend. He encouraged her to pursue her dreams, offering his support and guidance. He saw her potential to make a real difference in the world and was eager to help her achieve her goals. Elena's life took a new direction, her path illuminated by the lessons learned at Blackwood Manor. She embraced her newfound purpose with a renewed sense of energy and determination, her heart filled with gratitude for the opportunity to make a positive impact on the lives of others. She had found a calling that resonated with her deepest values, a calling that gave her life meaning and purpose. She continued to care for Mr. Blackwood, but her role evolved from that of a nurse to that of a friend and advocate. She helped him navigate the challenges of his condition, supported his efforts to communicate and connect with the world, and celebrated his triumphs. She became a part of his extended family, sharing holidays and special occasions with him and his caregivers. Elena's life was no longer defined by hardship and struggle. She had found love and friendship, purpose and fulfillment. She had emerged from the darkness stronger and more determined than ever, her spirit shining brightly like a beacon of hope. Elena, once a woman burdened by grief and hardship, emerged from the Blackwood Manor ordeal transformed. The experience had tested her courage, her resilience, and her faith in humanity. It had pushed her to her limits, forcing her to confront her fears and insecurities, but it had also revealed her inner strength and her unwavering commitment to justice. She had faced adversity with unwavering determination, challenged authority with quiet strength, and fought for justice with unwavering conviction. She had learned to trust her instincts, to speak truth to power, and to stand up for what she believed in. She had discovered a voice she never knew she had, a voice that could inspire and empower others. The journey had not been easy. She had faced accusations, threats, and attempts to undermine her credibility. But through it all, she had remained steadfast, her compassion for Mr. Blackwood fueling her determination. She had refused to be silenced, to be intimidated, to be deterred from her path. Elena's character had been forged in the crucible of adversity, her spirit tempered by the challenges she had faced. She had discovered a strength within herself she never knew she possessed, a resilience that enabled her to overcome obstacles and emerge victorious. She had learned that she was capable of more than she ever imagined, that she could make a real difference in the world. The experience had also deepened her empathy for others, her understanding of the human condition. She had witnessed the best and worst of humanity, the depths of greed and the heights of compassion. She had seen the destructive power of wealth and privilege, but she had also witnessed the transformative power of human connection and kindness. Elena reflected on her journey, the lessons learned, the friendships forged, and the lives touched. She realized that the ordeal had not only changed Mr. Blackwood's life, but had also transformed her own. She had found a new purpose, a new direction, a new sense of self. She was no longer just a nurse, but an advocate, a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those who could not fight for themselves. She had learned the importance of perseverance, of never giving up on hope, even in the darkest of times. She had learned the value of friendship, of finding support and strength in others. And she had learned the power of compassion, of reaching out to those in need and offering a helping hand. Elena's journey had been a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of compassion, and the importance of fighting for justice. She had emerged from the ordeal a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person, ready to face whatever challenges life threw her way. Elena's story is a testament to the power of compassion, the courage of conviction, and the resilience of the human spirit. It highlights the importance of speaking truth to power, of fighting for justice, and of never giving up on those in need. It is a story of transformation, of a woman who faced adversity with unwavering determination and emerged stronger and more compassionate than ever before. Elena, a woman of humble origins, faced seemingly insurmountable odds, challenging the wealthy and influential, defying the medical establishment, and risking her own safety to protect a vulnerable man. Her actions, driven by compassion and a deep sense of justice, inspired those around her and sparked a movement that would change the lives of countless others. Her story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. It reminds us that even the most vulnerable among us deserve our compassion and our protection. And it reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference in the world, no matter our background or our circumstances. Elena's journey is a beacon of light in a world often shrouded in darkness. It is a story that will resonate with readers long after they have turned the final page, a story that will inspire them to embrace their own inner strength and to fight for what they believe in. The themes of compassion, justice, and resilience are woven throughout the narrative, creating a powerful and moving story that will stay with readers long after they have finished reading. Elena's transformation from a struggling nurse to a fearless advocate is an inspiration to us all, reminding us that we all have the potential to make a positive impact on the world. The Whisper is a story that will touch your heart, challenge your assumptions, and leave you feeling hopeful about the future. It is a story that celebrates the human spirit and reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we can find the strength to overcome any obstacle and emerge victorious.